Alright, today we're going to strip down some furniture. So if you've never stripped down furniture before, it's a pretty simple process, and if you follow the steps in this video, it's going to be pretty easy to do, and you won't have to worry about having a workshop or anything. You can actually even do it inside of your house. I wouldn't suggest that, but if it's a last resort, you can do it with the products I mentioned in this video. Stripping furniture can be nice and handy for flipping furniture, whether you want to get some stain off or some paint that's really been covering up a nice wood grain. You can take that off, refinish it, and just make a piece of furniture look amazing again. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the materials. Alright, so the stripping agent I'll be using today is the Citrus Strip. This is the odorless one, and it actually has kind of a orangey smell to it. So if you're going to be doing this indoors at all, you have to be using this one. Most of the other ones will just ruin your house, pretty much. I'd still recommend opening a window or something because you can't ever be too safe, and who knows, there's still obviously chemicals in here that you probably shouldn't be breathing in. Next, you just need some kind of paintbrush to apply this, and then next you're gonna need a scraper. I will recommend a plastic one will ensure that you're not gonna damage your piece of furniture. With this one, I've had a few times where I'm scraping and I accidentally lose track and I dig a little scratch into it. So if you're using a metal scraper, you just need to be a little more careful, but you can use either. Just some kind of useless cup that you will need to discard of, because there's gonna be a lot of just stain residue and citrus strip residue in here, so yeah, you're not safe in the cup you put this in. Okay, and then we got some gloves. So if you wanna be really safe about it, get some cleaning gloves like these. You can just ensure that it's not gonna get on you. I've got it on my skin before, and as long as you don't leave it on there too long, you're fine. However, I do recommend getting it off as fast as possible. But I'll just be using these today. They're vented. They're just enough to where if I'm being careful, I won't have to worry about it getting all over me. Okay, and then last of all, we got steel wool. I'm using the Quad Zero, so it's super fine. And then some odorless mineral spirits. This is gonna help clean up just the residue off of it, because some of the citrus strip stays back, and you just need to make sure you clean that off and get into the small little grooves with the steel wool. You can go without these two items, but I definitely would recommend if you're trying to get a clean finish on your piece. Alright, so to get started, we're gonna go ahead and get that paintbrush and our citrus strip. And I'm just gonna pour a little doppel, right about here. Just kind of streak it across. I'll stop right there for now. You want to get your brush and you just want to coat it. You want to coat it around really thick. You want to make sure that it's nice and wet and it's not going to dry up, because if it dries up, it's not going to work. So we'll get that nice and coated on there. And you be very generous with this. I mean, as you can see, I'm leaving lots of chunks. And I would recommend not doing the whole piece in one go, because it's going to dry up and you're just going to have a whole mess on your piece. And don't forget to get in the grooves. So for example, I'm gonna be doing just one side of this piece today, which will just be this face all the way right here, including the leg. Now, if you do have some very detailed sections, I will say covering this in saran wrap to make sure all the moisture stays in there will help a ton, and it will make sure that you are not drying out anything and it's really soaking it in there, because sometimes it can be hard to get out of super detailed spots. For this piece though, it's generally not that detailed, so I don't really have to worry about that, as long as I keep a nice thick coat. Alright, so after you got everything coated on, we just gotta wait 20 minutes, and that's when we'll check on it and see how it's doing. Alright, so as you can see, we're about halfway, and the citrus strip is starting to build up a matte finish, which means everything's going good and it's starting to do its thing. So the matte finish you're actually looking at is the citrus strip bringing up the finish off of the wood and allowing it to be scraped off. Now, as you can see on the tip right here, it doesn't look like I applied enough citrus strip to this little section right here. The glossy is kind of what you want to see. It's like a glossy matte, but when it looks really dry like that, that means there's not enough on there. So it could be a little harder to scrape off, but it still should scrape off pretty easily as long as you have your steel wool and your mineral spirits. So our 20-minute timer just finished up, so now let's check out what we got. All right, and everything seems to be going smoothly. So as you can see, some of it's elevated a little bit, and that's when we know that it is time to start working, because some of it is also trying to dry out, so we want to beat it before it starts to dry out too much. All right, so this is our most satisfying step, and it also takes the longest, which is great. You need your scraper and you need your trash cup. And what you want to do is you just want to evenly apply pressure along your scraper throughout your strokes and just scrape it up. And as you can see, I got a huge amount of like gunk on there. But if you look down at the bottom, it is cleaning up really nice, really fast already. This part can get pretty messy, so you just gotta be careful. And just scrape over it a few times to make sure you've got all the layers. Now do keep in mind it will be a little dark still because it is soaked with that product. Look at that. Alright, so I'm going to quickly scrape all this off and we'll get started on the steel wool. Alright, so I just finished up what I like to call the rough scrape, which essentially is just scraping it down. No external techniques, just scraping it down and trying to get as much gunk as I can off of it. So now we are ready for our mineral spirits and our steel wool. And this step's pretty simple. Get your steel wool, get some mineral spirits on there, and just go ham. Just start really scraping down and getting into those grooves, and you'll just see a crazy difference about how the gunk and stuff starts to pull off. And it just really cleans it up well and gets into all the cracks. Alright, so this is where we're at now. Alright, so now what you're supposed to do is let it dry for 24 hours before you do anything else like sand. So I will see y'all tomorrow and show you what the finished product looks like. Alright, so here's the final product. Now I previously did the top, so we've got the top done, and then we've got this one side, which just the front of the leg is done. Now that it's dried, it looks great. So if I go to the side over here, you'll be able to tell that was before, and then this is the after. If I get a little closer, you can see that there's some good gray in there, and then on this side, it's all just coated up, and you can't tell. So I've still got a few more sides to do on this one. I do want to point out though that there is a little bit I missed over here, right there. There's a few options you can do with this. If this happens to you, you can take a razor blade and try and scrape it off. You do need to be very careful though that you don't dig into the wood. And then your other option is wait till you finish doing the whole piece and then sand it down. So that's what I'm gonna do with this piece, is I'm gonna sand this down once I'm ready to fully sand it down right before I coat it. I hope y'all found something helpful in this video. If you got any questions, leave them below and I'll try and get back to them, and hopefully we can figure out what your problem is. Besides that, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.